Hello to all you gorgeous goddesses out there. I'm Reea Pawley, and I'm here to help empower you psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I do that by using a range of therapies, life and relationship coaching, hypnotherapy, NLP, and I'm psychic. Some of the major work that I do is doing soul readings for people. And even though I'm a trained therapist and I do a lot of hypnotherapy and life and relationship coaching, probably psychic readings or soul readings are the things that people come to me more frequently for. I guess those skills and abilities are kind of out there. Not very many people have them. And so it's interesting, and it's certainly interesting to the kind of clients that I attract, that they're kind of looking for that, divine guidance and wisdom. And often in coming to me for a psychic reading, it gives people an opportunity to sample my skills, to meet me, and then they can make a decision about doing therapy with me or doing coaching with me. So I want to give you a bit of a snapshot today about the way to get the most out of your psychic reading. There are lots of myths out there about psychic readings because we're coming from if you want to see it as an old energy, the kind of fortune teller, energy. And we all know that in that old energy, there were a lot of charlatans and scammers who just wanted to take your money and would tell you any bullshit. And often, they were fortune telling, they were predicting the future. It wasn't really coming true. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. And, we've moved right away from that. In the new energy that's happening on Earth at the moment, we've all come a long way since then. And so, everything's changed. Therapy itself has changed. I grew up in an era where there was no such thing as therapy. People didn't go to counselors. There were very few psychologists in the world. And when I studied psychology at uni, it was, in the 80s, it was the new big thing then. And people were just starting to kind of want to study it and want to become psychologists. So things change. And psychic readings have changed too. So I want to go through with you some of the myths about psychic readings, some of the truths and non-truths, so that if you're having a free reading with me online, and I do a lot of free readings on Facebook, if you're having a free reading with me online, or if you're coming to me for a reading, you can make the most out of your investment and your time. So there's actually a blog on my website, reea.com.au, and I've written an article, a blog article there, so you can go and read that as well. But I'm going to go through those myths today that I think are most important for you to understand. So the first one is that all psychics are mediums. Now, because I also channel, and I channel the goddess Mart, and that's, if you like to look at it that way, that's one of my main guides is the goddess Mart, the Egyptian goddess of truth, justice, and harmony. You might call me a medium, but most people's understanding of the word medium is that mediums talk to dead people. And by that I mean dead relatives. So, that is not my thing. I can call in people's dead relatives or loved ones that have crossed over during the course of a reading. To get information and to connect with them, but it's not something that I particularly focus on, and to be honest with you, it's not something that I'm particularly interested in either. Just because Auntie Bev is dead doesn't mean she knows anything more when she's dead than she did when she was here, so it's not a good source of wisdom and information necessarily. That can be true and not so true, depends on the being and how developed their soul was when they crossed over. That's another story. But mostly that mediumship work is known in the biz as proof of life work, and it's to prove to you that your dead relative isn't really dead, that they've just crossed over and they've gone into another dimension, that you can still connect with them, and that therefore you're not going to die either, that you know, there is existence after life, and it's proof to you of that. I'm not interested in proving that to anybody. I really work with most people who already know that. They already know that that we reincarnate, and that when we die we just go to somewhere else, not here. And so that's not the work I do. So if that's what you're looking for, if you only want to connect with dead relatives, I'm not the person for you to work with. There are plenty of other people out there that do that kind of John Edwards stuff. Personally, I find all that annoying. That whole, you know, let's entertainment thing where there's a crowd of people and the medium goes around and says, oh, I've got somebody over here whose partner died of a heart attack. You know, really? It's not my thing. It's not the way I do it. It's not my thing. I'm not interested in it. So, yeah. Moving on. Okay, so number 2 in the myths that you need to know about psychics was that dead relatives become the font of all wisdom when they die. And I already kind of touched on that. That's not true. If somebody really didn't know much when they were here, when they cross over and go to the other side, it's highly likely that they won't know much more. When we get to the other side, we are greeted by our guides and we have to go through a life review, and we connect with a higher source of wisdom to reflect on what we learned or didn't learn in the lifetime that we've just left. But again, that doesn't mean that they can answer your questions about what's going on in your life. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, myth number 3, psychics are mind readers. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? Okay, people often ask me questions where they expect me or their guides or their soul to have read their mind. And I don't know where that whole myth came from, but frankly, it's really annoying. You have about 60,000 separate thoughts in a day. And honestly, most of them are repetitive and boring and just not that worth listening to. Now, it's just a misunderstanding about how all of this works. I'm not saying that your guides and your soul can't tune into the energy of a question you have and get the answer for you. Of course they can, but you have to ask the question first. So they're not reading your mind. That would be intrusive. And the number 1 law of the universe is not to interfere in an entity or being's free will. So you're allowed to have your private thoughts, right? Your soul's not listening to them all the time. Your guides aren't listening to them all the time. Like I said, they're repetitive, they're boring. Some of them are just silly. So, so psychics aren't mind readers. When I'm doing what I do, I am not reading your mind, right? It's very, very different than that. So get that out of your head, right? When people meet me, they often go, oh, is she reading my mind? No, I'm not. I'm not telepathic. As far as I know, we human beings are not yet telepathic on this planet. Apparently they are on other planets and in other dimensions. Yes, we are telepathic. I know for a fact, because I've had plenty of spiritual experiences where I've been in the astral plane, or I've had a past life experience and the being is communicating with me, or the other beings are communicating with me telepathically. We're not actually using words. So I've had the experience of that when I'm in other dimensions other than this, visiting, but not here on Earth. In 3rd dimensional reality, we're not yet telepathic. Apparently that's where we're going when we awaken. That would be nice, but whether that's going to happen in my lifetime or not, I don't really know. Okay, so psychics are not mind readers. Number 4, psychics can tell your future. Really? Okay, this is what I can only speak for myself here and my own experience of this. I went to lots and lots and lots of psychics before I realized I was psychic and I started to work in this field. I did have a bit of a fascination for it, and that's probably because my mother was psychic and her sisters were psychic, but they didn't do readings, but they had precognitive dreams, they got impressions, they had premonitions, they talk to ghosts sometimes. You know, ghosts appeared sporadically throughout their lifetime, and they had those kind of I see dead people experiences. So I kind of grew up in that kind of, I didn't think I was psychic. But as far as psychics telling the future is concerned, certainly now, let me preface this by saying I have spent thousands of dollars talking to some of the world's best psychics and channelers over a period of 15 to 20 years, okay? Spent a lot of money doing that. And the world's best channelers will not crystal ball gaze. They will not play that game, and they call it a game, and they say it's a parlor trick. And us poor humans here in third dimensional reality seem to think it's fun. But in actual fact, they tell me, and this is what my guides tell me too, and what Goddess Mark tells me, that no one can predict your future with accuracy. Because you are creating your experience in every moment, right? You're creating your future, and you're creating your future with your thoughts, with the emotions that you have, and the choices that you make. So every time you change your mind, and for some of you that might be many times in a day, right? Every time you change your mind, you change your future. You change the path of probable reality that you're going down. If you like to see it this way, you're changing timelines, is another way of describing it. So when someone comes to me and they ask me a question, I can tune into the energy of that question, and I can bring through information about probabilities. What's most probably going to happen should you choose that thing? Should you go down this path? Where does that go? You know, is there a relationship in my future? Is there a job in my future? Yes, I can tell you those things, those kind of things, because I'm tuning into the probable realities of it. But it's never 100% accurate. No one is. It doesn't matter how good a psychic you are. You're never 100% accurate for the reasons that I already said. So just be aware of that. Sometimes it's not in your best interest to know the future, right? If we were meant to know the future, we would be able to. Even I don't know my future, right? I'm in a similar position to you. I have to get guidance about what the best course of action is, what is for my highest good. I don't know what's going to happen, right? So, and that's because we're not meant to, right? So just remember that. If your only reason for going to a psychic is to know the future, then you're not using the psychic efficiently. You're not using the gift efficiently. It's much deeper and broader than that. You know, real life questions about making decisions can be more informed with divine guidance instead of telling you what the future is. It's supposed to be helping you to make better choices for yourself, to grow and expand, to take care of yourself, to see things with clarity, to be honest with yourself and others, to love yourself more. I mean, there's a whole range of stuff that going to a good psychic can give you, other than just foretelling the future, right? So again, that's really old energy. Okay. Myth number 5, being psychic is like talking on a telephone to the other side. Oh, I wish. Hang on, I'll just pick up the phone. Hello, God. Nope. So we all have different psychic gifts, okay? There's clairsentience, clear feeling, clairvoyance, clear seeing, clairaudience, clear hearing, claircognizance, clear knowing. And there's another one, I can never remember the word, but it's clear. I always call it clairsmellience because it means using smells to get information. And there are a bunch of other ways that psychics have tools, if you like, to get information. They read palms, they read tea leaves, they might hold a piece of jewelry, that's called psychometry. They use tarot cards, they use pendulums, they cast runes. You know, we have a whole bunch of tools and a whole bunch of gifts that we have. So it's not like having a telephone. I know that there are clairaudient people around who actually hear a voice in their head that is not their own voice, but there are very few of those. That's a very, very rare skill on the planet, and it's really hard to find someone that can do that and, you know, and talk to them. I am clairvoyant, so I see things, and I'm also claircognizant, clear knowing, and clairsentient, clear feeling. So I feel things, I know things, and you know, another way of describing that is channeling, because I'm getting downloads of information. I know when I'm actually in a channeling mode because the right side of my face tingles, and there's a pressure and an energy that comes into the right side of my body, and I know when that feeling is there that I'm connected to Goddess Ma and my guides, and I can trust when information comes when I'm in that state. Okay, so you know, channeling is no woo-woo, way out there, really strange thing. Because everybody who writes music, plays music, probably plays sport, invents things, creates things, artists, people who write stories, they're channeling, right? It's coming through them, not from them necessarily. So that's the experience of channeling. We can all channel, we can all do that. We're all actually channeling our higher selves all the time. We just don't know it, and we're probably not practicing it or at the vibrational resonance that you need to be in order to make use of that in the best way that you can. So that's maybe something that you can think about doing a little bit more for yourself later on. Okay, myths about being psychic. Number 6, psychics are intelligent, spiritually knowledgeable, and wise. Nope, nope, not true. I can remember sometime in the 80s or maybe 90s, and I was having psychic readings. I realized that a lot of the people that were reading for me were not spiritually knowledgeable, and not as spiritually knowledgeable as I was. Which was a bit of a disappointment, because I thought if they were getting messages from source energy or infinite intelligence, that they could know anything that they wanted to know. But you know, it doesn't really work like that, because you know, a lot of people are not intellectually curious, right? So they're not asking questions about things. What am I doing here? What's this all about? What's my purpose in life? Why are people the way they are? Why is the world the way it is? You know, they're the sort of, I'm very intellectually curious. So they're the sort of questions that I was asking from a very young age. From a child, as a child, I was asking some of those questions. Whereas some of those questions don't occur to anyone because they're not intellectually curious, and they don't like to think in concepts. You know, they're not interested in philosophy and psychology and all that sort of stuff. And you have to have a thirst for knowledge and want to understand. Again, the asking of the questions brings the answers through. And if you never ask those questions, the answers never come to you, and so you don't learn, and you don't necessarily know anything. So, and interestingly, a lot of the really world famous, incredible deep trance channelers that I've connected with over the years, some of them are even young souls. They're baby souls, or very simple beings. Think of Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham. Beautiful, beautiful being, but very simple. She wasn't the one that was asking the questions. It was her husband that brought the being of Abraham to Esther, with Esther's permission, of course, and probably, you know, prior contract. But it was his questions that brought through the answers through Esther. So she was a baby soul. I know other really great deep trance channelers in the world. The woman who channels Elias, God, what's her name? I've forgotten now. I've spoken to her many times. Mary Ennis. She's a baby soul. And sometimes some entities choose baby souls to channel through because there's no distortion, because they haven't got preconceived beliefs or knowledge about anything. So their channel is more undistorted and pure, if you like. So that's apparently why they do that. So not all psychics have spiritual knowledge and wisdom. So yeah, just be careful about that. Be careful. I think, you know, a lot of the old energy fortune tellers and clairvoyants and crystal ball gazers, you know, they didn't have spiritual knowledge or wisdom either. That's part of the problem. As we've gone on, I know a lot of psychics, and particularly myself, I've spent many years studying metaphysics. I had an absolute thirst for knowledge and read every book I could get my hands on during one period of time. So myth number 7, I just went through that. Not all psychics are old souls. Myth number 8, psychics will answer all my questions. Not true. If, like I said before, if we were meant to know the future, we would. We're not necessarily meant to know. You will ask questions and the answer will not come, or sometimes I'm told they can't tell you the answer to that, or you're not meant to know that. You're not meant to, you can't interfere in another being's free will, so they won't ever answer questions about other people unless the person's life intersects with your life, and the knowing of that answer is going to help you in some really important way. Parents often ask questions about their adult children, and sometimes with some questions you're not meant to know. That's intrusive too. If you have a child and they're an adult, then there are boundaries, and we can't interfere in their free will by giving you knowledge about them that they might not actually have given permission for. So it's up to the soul of the being or the person that the question is being asked about to give permission for that information to come through. So, we can't necessarily answer every question that you have for those reasons. I hope you enjoyed that today. I've had a wonderful time. If you need a reading, I do them online. I do them on Facebook video chat. I do them on Skype, and I do them in person at Salamander Bay in Newcastle. And I also do email readings, and I'll leave the link below if you'd like to have a reading. I'd love to hear from you. Much love and blessings, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity.